Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. The Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts is proudly sponsored by the Global Wellness HQ community. It's an online membership group where we meet, we share ideas, we share insights, and we all work together and help one another discover our own personal wellness journeys. If you'd like to join us, you can easily click the link below or scan the QR code, and we love hearing your stories. So we hope to see you in the community. Welcome to the show, everyone. Today, I'm really excited to have Steve Sweeney on the show. Steve, why don't you first of all introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff, and thanks for having me on today. That's great. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I am a specialist referral trainer. What does that mean? That means that I train business owners in what I call the art and science of how to attract referrals. And that has also drifted me off into another direction recently, because as you would know, Jeff, many networking/referral organizations present an opportunity for a member or somebody from the outside to come in and speak and give a presentation. And just recently, I've developed a program whereby I train people to actually win clients from an audience. And don't be thinking that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I've been putting this method into place for a long time and found that I'm achieving great results. And I thought, you know what, it's time to pass this on to other people.
Well, and the timing is perfect because I think, I'm hearing a lot of businesses, they're worrying about global recession and, we're coming out of the pandemic. And I think a lot of businesses suffered needlessly. Let's talk about, first of all, I'd love your definition of what a referral is. And then let's talk about what you do, because I think I hear a lot of nonsense about referrals. And I think the one I hate the most is, I actually had a digital marketer who spammed me and, said, "Oh, we're looking to sell our client attraction strategies." And, I asked him the question I always ask: if what you do works so well, why are you calling me instead of the other way around? And I said that my business is 100% referral based, and his immediate assumption was, "Oh, so it's unpredictable and you're struggling." So I'd love to get your definition of referral, and then let's talk about, the practicality and the scalability of it, because I'd love to hear a global perspective on this.
Sure. Thanks. Great question, Jeff. Absolute beauty of a question. So what is a referral? And I certainly take your point that there are, look, I'm not alone in the world. There are other people who do what I do. And indeed, I go along because I don't profess to know everything about referral marketing, and there's still stuff for me to learn. But as a result of going along to hear other referral trainers, I hear their definition of what a referral is. And some of them put it down to something as simple as an introduction. And to me, an introduction is a really nice thing. In fact, it's how you and I met. But an introduction is not a referral. A referral lends itself to be, in my way of thinking, more of a recommendation for somebody to come and solve whatever problem that another person might have. And it's also been established that the client, the end client, actually has a need for the services the service provider will be providing, and also has a little bit, not totally, but a little bit of trust built up in the eventual service provider, because the referring party has matched the two of them beautifully and knows that the supplier and the end client are actually made for each other. and so has connected the dots and put them together and said, I actually recommend Jeff as a wonderful bloke, and he's really good at doing A, B, C, D, E. To me, that's the basis of what a referral is. There are more things about referrals, for deeper definitions at some point, but that's my working definition of one.
I love it. And full disclosure for anybody watching and listening, you have an extensive background in BNI. One of the other things I hear is, oh, is this an alternative to BNI? I just like to burst that bubble because I usually say it's in addition to, but I'd love your comments on that as well.
Sure. So BNI, it's one of those organizations that it often polarizes people. I personally don't know why. To me, it's like every other organization under the sun. And yes, you are quite right. I have spent a lot of time in BNI as an area director and a training director here in Australia. But regardless, it does seem to polarize people for whatever reason. But here's my take on BNI and every other organization under the sun. It's a good organization if it's right for you. And if it's not right for you, that's okay. There are other places that you can go. But yes, I certainly have an extensive background in BNI, and it was a lot of fun. I absolutely enjoyed my time there. I learned a heck of a lot. I have great connections that I still hang out with. I'm going to have lunch with somebody on Thursday this week who is an old BNI colleague of mine. So it's a great organization.
Well, and just to be clear, you and I were introduced by a fellow BNI person that you know. I'm in Canada, you're in Australia, and he's located in Florida.
Hmm.
That tells me a little something about the I in BNI being truly international.
It absolutely is. And if anybody who's listening to this wants an invitation to what's called the GPT, which is the global power team of BNI, I'm sure I'll give my contact details out at some point, but get in contact with me because I know one of the visitor hosts there, and she can organize for you to get in there and learn what international referral marketing is all about, because they do a fairly good job. But like I say, I'm not it's a good organization if it's right for you. It may not be for you. I'm not trying to push anybody into joining
Yeah.
it, but go along and have a look.
Well, and one of the things I'll just point this out, I'm pretty observant and I'm pretty objective. There are some people who think that BNI is a religion and it's the only religion on the planet. I see it as a tool, which I think is what it was developed for. But any tool is only good as the person using it and using it correctly. So,
That's absolutely the case, Jeff. I think, like a lot of businesses, so I was, relatively close to the pointy end. So I had access to a lot of numbers. It's roughly the 80-20 rule, just like every other business. It works for 20%, and for 80%, there's the churn. You
yeah.
know, and so in terms of being a good business model, then the owners of the franchises make more money out of the churn than they do out of the members who are continuously renewing. But I wouldn't like to point a finger and say that it doesn't work for somebody because of A, B, or C,
Yeah.
because I don't know them as humans, and and BNI, it's wonderful in terms of it being a statistics-driven organization, but there's a heck of a lot more to humanity than statistics. So
Yeah.
you cannot necessarily say that it's going to work for you because your stats are high or your stats are low. It's just
Yeah.
not that simple.
Well, and the reality is it's that cliche. You get out of it what you put into it. And when I know a lot of people who tell me that they didn't like BNI, they didn't think it worked. They also admit that they didn't go to the meetings. It's a minor detail, but that's kind of the whole point of BNI and any networking is to attend meetings, get to know people, build that trust. Now, the first time you and I met, you told me something that stuck with me. You said that you accidentally discovered that referrals are based on good quality relationships. Tell me that discovery moment, if you will.
So when I first joined, so this was in BNI. When I first joined BNI, I did everything wrong. You know, I was the member that the vice president wanted to get rid of. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. I did not put effort in. I did not have faith in the system. I went in with a negative mindset, and of course, guess what? I shot myself in the foot. Anyway, a rather good fellow came up to me one day and said, "Steve, you seem like a decent chap, but honestly, you're stuffing this up. Just, just do this, this, and this, and you will notice in 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it was, that your results will start to improve." And he was right. But what he was wrong about, pardon me, was that it didn't take 5 or 6 weeks. It took about a week and a half. And then I started getting referrals for the copywriting business that I was running at the time. And so, yeah, I fell into it because somebody had patience with me. And perhaps that was in the back of my mind when I started down the training path in BNI as well, to train others to do it. If it's a great thing, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Jeff. Somebody takes a little bit of time with you, you really appreciate it. It's great advice, and it changes your outcomes.
Love that. Now, you were mentioning again that you figured out I'm going to call it the secret formula for presentations. How much of that would you like to share? That story, I think, is important.
So the story. So just to be clear, this presentation style does not work for BNI. Okay, because in BNI you're only allotted 10 minutes, and there's another presentation format that I would be recommending for that. So just to be clear on this, the presentation style that I'll start talking about soon and how I fell into it is it's more for your standard 1 hour webinar. Okay, that's where I have discovered it works beautifully. Anyway, so I was being a trainer, right? And you would appreciate this, Jeff, and in fact, I know this about you. You're a giver. Trainers love the feeling of standing up there and imparting wisdom and experience and knowledge and blah, blah, blah to the room in the hopes that they can go out there and make a better outcome for themselves. That's what it's about, all right? There are an awful lot of business presentations where the presenter actually wants to win a client from the audience, but they use the trainer's presentation format. They stand up there and they give and they give and they give and they give until it hurts, Jeff.
And then give some more. Yes, I've been there,
and
done
then
that.
give some more, because they are good givers, generous people, blah, blah, blah. They're the sort of people that you want in your life. They absolutely are. However, if you're giving until it hurts to an audience, they don't need to contact you about anything so that you can take them to a better place through, one-to-one counseling or whatever it is you do, right? So presenters who give too much away in the wrong manner are shooting themselves in the foot. And I had been doing this for so long, and it started to get the better of me, because I was of the school. People will see how clever I am and want to just tap into my knowledge. They'll follow me up, and it so rarely happened that I got a bit sick of it and thought, well, I'm just doing something fundamentally wrong here. What is it? And then I started experimenting with different presentation styles, and with one of them, I turned it into more of a conversation as opposed to a training or a workshop. But that is certainly one of the elements. And once you start turning it into a conversation, things change dramatically in the room.
I love that. And I think that's, I have been that trainer where I give everything, and then I hear later that their lives didn't change because nobody, they had all the knowledge, but they didn't have the motivation to put it into play. I think you said something about showing your attendees how much they don't know and how to identify what they're doing wrong. Would you care to elaborate a little bit on that? And then I want to get into sort of not so much how to give a presentation, but we'll talk about who to give a presentation to, because you had some great insight on that last time we talked.
Sure. So the idea that presenters, so some of the things presenters do wrong, all right? So give and give and give. That's one of them. They concentrate on building rapport with the audience, an emotional connection, and that's terrific, all right? It's absolutely terrific, but it's the wrong emotional connection. And I fell into this. I fell into it big time, Jeff. I'm kind of have a natural. I've been struck with the entertainer gene. Okay, for rightly or wrongly, that's just me, right? And people like myself, we get a kick out of being the center of attention. We do. That's who we are.
Yeah.
And so you start slipping into trainer slash kind of entertainer mode.
Almost an enter-trainer mode.
It is exactly, it's what I call it. It's exactly what it is. And so you become this person, and guess what? Yeah, they're loving it. They're absolutely loving it. And yeah, they applaud at the end and they slap you on the back, but that doesn't pay your bills.
Yeah.
And there's another element to it, and I'll put it out there. I'm guilty of it, and I've seen other people guilty of it as well, is that you let your ego thrive in the moment of being that giver, that entertainer, and you get a high. You absolutely get a high from being that person, right? And so along that vortex that you go, but it's building the wrong emotional connection with the audience, because they don't care. I mean, they're enjoying it, but they don't care that you're a great entertainer. They don't.
Yeah.
What they care about is, can you solve my problem, mate?
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing I would say, I see a lot of presenters, they give and they give and they give, and then at the end of the day, they bow, everybody applauds, and they leave, and then they walk out and go, "Oh, I forgot to tell people how they could work with me." So even if they did the presentation right, they missed that moment, the invitation to work together.
Yes, you're bang on, and there's another element to that as well, and it's the nature of the invitation they provide. There's a lot of folks that give a wonderful presentation. It's all tickety boo. Everyone's enjoying themselves, blah blah blah, and then they put an offer on the table. And this might be the first time folks in the audience have ever come across this person, right? They put an offer on the table, and it goes something like, "And now you can sign up for 3/4 of the price to my $10,000 program. Because you were here today, you're getting a 25% discount." People are, the higher the price tag, the more they need to get to know you.
Yeah.
All right. And so structuring that initial offer is critical for improving conversion rates, is something that I have found out, because I've been doing some experimenting with that as well. And here's something for nothing for all the listeners out there. Think of your, tier your business, in terms of entry points.
Yeah.
And so tiering your business and putting something out there on, in that type of circumstance that I explained, as a low level, a taster, a foot in the door type thing, a get to know session, blah, blah, whatever it is, that's a much better way to get higher conversion rates. And then you've got to, move them along with the relationship.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I've noticed the most, and I'd love your feedback on this. I see a lot of trainers who read or studied or saw an online course about how to present an offer, and for some reason, they're focused on a relationship while they're presenting and training, but then they put on this weird costume and they become this smarmy salesperson, and it comes across not as, "I'd like to invite you to work with me." It's more, "Hey, I got a deal for you." Like it's almost greasy in the transition. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because I think a lot of people who have the heart of a trainer and they are givers, they feel like takers when they present their offer.
And they do it so awkwardly, because at that point they are looking for something to come back.
Yeah.
And in the past, when they have given their presentations, they know nothing has come back. That's why they're in the situation that they're in. And so they are, in their mind, there's this expectation, "Oh my God, I'm going to fail again."
Okay.
That's what's going through their heads because it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
They're just going around and around the loop, and it's not going to change. And so, of course, they feel more awkward about it. And that's why staggering the offer that's actually put out there and understanding what the right verbiage is around it will certainly help with conversion, because it's you don't want to turn into the dude who's wearing a trench coat who opens up one side of the trench coat and says, "Want to buy a watch?"
Yeah.
You don't want to be that dude at the end of your presentations.
The other side, he's got various electronics and stuff, and
Yeah, he's
yeah.
got a VCR hanging out the left side and watches on the right.
Yeah, I've been to those. I find it fascinating. Now, you said that your numbers so far, and one of the things I'm encouraging my audience is to find their voice and do those presentations. You mentioned that you're currently converting about 40% of attendees. Now, first of all, I want to address something really obvious, the fact that you are tracking your numbers. Um, Tell us a little bit about how you're tracking and how you're optimizing to get that kind of a success rate.
Sure. Uh, there's a number of things. All right. So anyone who's serious about business and running experiments, which is what I've been doing, on the how tos, the what works, the what doesn't, you absolutely have to track the results that you're getting. In the absence of reliable, meaningful data, then you're just swimming in a dark ocean and you don't know which way you're going. So you work out whatever the criteria are that you track, and then also so mark it down afterwards what's happening. But that 40% conversion is from the first presentation that they see me at, and they may have a relationship with me before then. Many do, some don't, and I can't control that. But beyond that, that is the conversion rate on average to the next step, to them accepting the offer. All right, because you know as well as I do, Jeff, the sooner you get down talking to somebody one-to-one, the more likely that you're actually going to be working out whether or not you're right for each other. Okay, because in the absence of you both making that decision, and I mean both, right? Because we've all taken on clients we wish we hadn't.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so you both have to work out whether or not you're right for each other, and then you move on. All right, and so part of the high conversion rate that I'm getting, and one of them was it was the first one I did. It was 70%. I turned from it was probably more, it was 77 accurately, because there were 9 people there and 7 of them came along to the next part of the relationship, and then from there were 4 clients that came from those 7. One of the critical factors everybody needs to understand when they're giving a presentation is you got to be doing it to the right audience. Okay, that is, if you take nothing else away from this, take that away. Make sure you're talking to the right people. The right people is so important for a number of reasons. It certainly helps with any conversion rate that you may be attaining, but it also creates a mood in the room. And that mood in the room, that's got a value. It's hard to pin it down, but it absolutely has a value. If I'm on a call with on a training session with 10 people, right, and 5 of them are looking at each other not knowing why they're there, and there's 5 more that are keen as mustard, then that's going to cross-pollinate. Everybody's looking at everybody else on the screen. Everyone can read their faces. Yeah. And people are going to start to be questioning, oh, well, and also then you're going to get, you got to get people turning their cameras off, indicating lack of interest. You're going to get people saying, or doing emails on this screen over here.
Yeah,
it's all going to happen, and that will affect the mood. So take this away, get the right people in the room to start with.
And if you don't mind, I was going to go down that path, and I'm glad we ended up here anyways. But you talk about identifying other givers and avoiding the takers, so that when you put the right people in the room, something does come back to you.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips there? And maybe it's just, how do you identify the givers? What are your warning signs for the takers? Because I think that's the problem. Givers are naturally drawn to takers.
And I think that's unfortunate, and it's probably, with respect, in my view anyway, at least, perhaps the other way around. Takers
Yes.
are drawn to givers.
I was gonna say, or it's the other way. Either way, it seems like an unhealthy mix, right?
Look, it certainly is, and of course, both exist in any population. That's just how it is, right? How do you identify a taker? A taker will be someone, if you're standing around at a networking meeting, for example, they're the sort of person who looks bored when somebody else is talking. They're the sort of person who is only interested in their time to speak, because you know what it's like at a networking event. There's 4 or 5 folks standing around in a circle, each telling their story. And so, yeah, the taker is going to be looking away. And then when the taker has their time to speak, one of the first things they're going to do is hand out their business cards, so that everybody's got means of contacting them, whether they want to or not. Takers often, the nature of their conversation is I. A giver is talking about how he or she may have helped their clients, and whatever their client's dilemma is. So there's just a couple of ways, but givers in particular, they have this way of listening that not everybody has a way of listening. So, and you're doing it right now, Jeff. I can tell you're a giver in spades. It's
Don't tell
yeah,
anyone.
yeah.
It's a secret.
I know. You don't want that to get out. It's called active listening skills. Okay, so active listening skills. What are they? They're the little the little nods that go along.
Right.
The focus of your eyes on the person who is talking at all times. Sure, you might look away occasionally, but 90% of the time, you've got eye contact going on. Here's another thing about them. They ask insightful questions. And the reason they're able to ask insightful questions is because they've been listening. The taker wasn't listening, and so can't ask anything, doesn't know what's going on, right? But the giver will certainly ask insightful questions, and they're often the types of questions that you may have briefly had at one point or another, but they're not common questions that you're asked. Okay, so, and it's because of that deeper understanding, that deeper insight into your world that they want to attain, that they're willing to give you the time of day.
I love it. And honestly, I don't know that you can be a giver if you don't actively listen. I genuinely can't fathom that you could do it, because to give, you have to have some awareness of the person that's to receive. Like there's just sorry, that's where my brain's going right now. But now let's talk about your offering. And I know one of the things I was intrigued, and I made a note to ask. Last time we talked, you talked about referral audits being one of your core offerings. What would lead somebody to want to have that? I know for a fact why I'd want one, but let's talk about that for a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure, great question. So as many people would know, and you're probably the same as me here, Jeff, we would get around to a fair few different types of networking events. I tend to do it for research and to broaden my scope of people that I know, and I'm always working out who it is that I want to have a conversation with. All right, to follow them up. But in general, I'm in a niche, okay, whereby that is helpful to me. But I certainly don't recommend that other people be doing that for themselves. Okay. One of the things that happens is that there's, I'm just seeing an avalanche of this right now, is that there's so many business owners just networking all day, every day, 100 different places, blah, 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 and they're building up a gazillion different shallow relationships. You know this, Jeff, but for those out there in listener land that don't, referrals don't come from shallow relationships.
Yeah.
Referrals come from deep relationships. Okay. So you and I have referral partners. All right. And so we have those deeper relationships with a smaller number of people. The reason I'm getting around to different places is because I also have a skill, a level of expertise in the management of referral groups. And so they are the managers of those groups are another part of the mix that makes up my business. All right. So that's why I'm doing it, but I certainly don't recommend that other people do it. Find your 5, your 6, your whatever it is, core people and concentrate your relationships on those. All right. And if anybody wants to, contact me about how to work out what those people are, then that's fine. And so in relation to an audit, which is what your question's about, then that's one of the aspects of the audit that I will do. But I'll also go through your LinkedIn profile, your website. I don't do any of your other socials, get somebody else for that. And also work out who the people are that are, the potential people in your world to be easily passing you referrals. The purpose of the referral audit is to find or to map out the straightest line between where a client is and their next referral.
I love that. And I think that's unfortunate. A lot of people who don't know how to network, they assume that more is better. And, as you said, they go after a trillion shallow relationships, and then they come home exhausted going, I've got this stack of business cards and nothing to show for it. I tell people in my world, if you have one meaningful relationship, and people want definitions. I say you actually give a damn whether they succeed or not. One meaningful relationship will help you. Two meaningful relationships, you'll start to see some results. A lot of people, there is a concept, the Dream 100, where they think, you have to have 100 people supporting you. Honestly, most of my clients, I rarely go over 10 raving fans because we don't need it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Jeff. There's a fallacy out there, that and certain unnamed referral organizations are part of the problem because they propagate it. And that is, go out there and gather as many people that know, like, and trust you, and you will have as many sources of referrals as you can handle. And one of the exercises I get people to do in some of the trainings that I do is, so write down the number of people, roughly in the ballpark, number of people who know, like, and trust you. And I've had people, it's usually a range, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I've had people, lots of people put, 200 plus, yeah. All right, people that know, like, and trust them, right? And then I ask the next question, well, how many referrals are you receiving from them? Right? And so,
wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly. And so know, like, and trust, it's only part of the bedrock that creates the right environment to exchange referrals. All right. There's a missing link there, Jeff, and if anybody wants to find out what it is, you know how to contact, or you will know how to contact me soon. But it's
well, at this point, let's not leave them hanging. So first of all, how can people best get in touch with you?
Sure.
And then I have a follow-up question.
Sure. So if you all got your pens and paper ready, or maybe you've got a doc open on Google or something or other, but it's Steve, STEVE, at referralacademy.com.au.
Awesome. So thank you for that, Steve. Now, I know one of the things I feel, if people are curious about what you do, I'm just going to state the obvious and say, I'm guessing you have a workshop or a presentation they could participate in. What's the next one, and how do I connect people with that?
Sure. So the next one is coming up. So this is Australian time. The next one is coming up on the 17th of this month at 9 a.m., which may not be suitable for people in your part of the world. Anyway, if they're keen, but the plan is to do this one for various different time zones around the world so that it's more suitable. Awesome. Anyway, it's a 3-hour workshop, and it is about presenting to attract referrals. Sorry, to attract clients from an audience, not referrals. They're different. Awesome. And there's another one that I regularly do, but I won't confuse the issue. And it's called How to Fill Your Pipeline with Referrals. And I do those quite regularly. They are, they're kind of the 50-50 for clients for me. And they've helped me grow the business along with the referral partners that I have.
Well, and just for the Australian audience, because we do have some resources just that we share in Australia, I think it's probably fair to say if somebody was in charge of business development, or, had a nonprofit or an organization that could benefit, I'm guessing we could convince you to do a presentation or a workshop for them. Is that a fair
Absolutely.
assessment? Okay.
That is a completely 100% accurate assessment, Jeff. Yep.
Excellent. So I believe, and by the way, this was my big aha with networking and connecting, is it's exhausting to introduce one person to another person, and do that over and over and over again. I love connecting communities, because if I'm the hub between two communities, I can generate a lot of goodwill and relationships, and I don't have to do all the work to maintain them. So if there's any organizations listening and you've got a community that you think would benefit, one of the things I believe is, as an organization, if you help your members grow and you teach them how to network and refer, one of the beautiful side effects is it always comes back.
It certainly does, Jeff. It's amazing. So the law of reciprocity is alive and well with the givers. All right. not so much with the takers, but yeah, and it strikes me that in relation to what you say there, that there are more givers in the world than takers. That's my my take on the situation. I could be proven wrong by other people, but yeah, that's exactly right, Jeff.
And I believe, like you, that I think there are more givers. I think the problem is the takers make more noise when they take. But givers, a lot of them, they give just because it's the right thing to do, and it's almost anonymous. So um, now we're going to wrap up here. Is there anything I should have asked you about referrals, or your training, that I haven't asked you?
Another great question. No, you ask wonderful questions, Jeff. This has been an absolute pleasure to be involved in. Here's one of the things that I leave people with a lot at the end of a training session, though. Okay, so you are currently the business owner that you are, all right, but most of us we're looking to be a different business owner, someone who is more successful, whatever success means to you, right? And so between the person that you are and the person that you want to be, there's a whole bunch of awkward, right? You've got to acquire new knowledge, and humans are wonderful at acquiring new knowledge. We can acquire new knowledge like no other being on the planet, right? But what we're not so good at is turning knowledge into a skill. At that point, we become extraordinarily self-conscious because our egos take over again, and we think, oh my God, people are going to think I should know this already. What, they're going to think I'm stupid, they're going to think this, they're going to think that, and it's just a heap of negativity, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but if you go through that awkward phase, if you try try putting the new knowledge into a skill, then guess what, you're going to slowly become that business owner that you'd rather be, who's getting the results you'd rather be getting.
I love that. And I'm a big fan of Jeff Olson's book, The Slight Edge.
Mm.
Most people expect radical transformation overnight. His approach is, be 1% better today than you were yesterday. Take 1% of that course you took last week, and just pick one thing and apply it. So
Mm.
I want to thank you for being on the show, Steve, and I look forward to sharing this with my audience. I really appreciate your time today.
No troubles at all, Jeff. And for your audience as well, I also host a radio show. And stay tuned, folks, because I'm going to be getting Jeff on to that and be doing the same thing to him. It's going to be fun, Jeff.
I can't wait.
No troubles.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.